Hello and welcome. Hi, I'm author Grace Rolson. I'm going to talk about gray walling versus stonewalling, two different kinds of manipulations, methods, or strategies, and it depends on the situation. But a mom in my private group asked, what's the difference if, the narcissist is learning all of your methods and strategies and using them against us protective moms? So I'm here to help moms who are protective, loving, caring moms who are forced or required to co-parent, quote unquote, co-parent with a narcissist, or stuck in a high conflict family court custody battle. And I give my tips, tools, and strategies freely on my blog, on my website. They're in all of my books. I have guides and PDFs, and I talk about this gray walling method. And a mom was very worried that she's getting gray walled by the narcissist as a manipulation tactic. But there's a difference. There's a big difference between gray walling and stonewalling. And I want to go over this with you in this mini workshop for moms. I'm an author, coach, and strategist. So let's go over what I see as the difference. And you're welcome to post in the comments if you can notice the difference. So it does take the gift of discernment. You really have to think these things all the way through. The golden rule does apply in life. It does. It depends on what phase you are when dealing with the narcissist as your ex, as your co-parent, as maybe he's been positioned as the enemy or the target to destroy because your lawyer helped you establish that inadvertently. There's a lot that can go wrong when dealing with a narcissist in a custody battle, and lawyers sometimes are part of the problem, but often are needed to be part of a solution. And this goes in phases. So what I say and what I teach now is skillful means. And what I say is what you need to hear, not always what you want to hear. So, the change that we want to see often begins with us. So this is a mini workshop. I fought in family court for 10 to 12 years, had 3 lawyers, have an only child, was separated before I found out I was pregnant with my ex, didn't know he was a narcissist, and wondered why family court would never resolve. It turns out narcissists love lawyers, love to use lawyers. It's just a weapon, a flying monkey, a minion. So there's a lot to learn about narcissists and what they typically do and some of their predictable patterns. But gray walling versus stonewalling. We'll get into this because I have a blog and right now it's free. So if you pop over to my website, you can read that or watch it in video form. Is a method that puts a big block around you like a castle, and it walls out enemy, invaders, intruders, people that don't have good boundaries. You're basically setting a boundary, and boundaries with a boundary crosser can make you feel like you're going crazy because they don't respect any boundaries you put down. So I teach moms to put boundaries with themselves. I call those self rules, and that's in my first book. So what is gray walling? It's like a personal strategy to build that castle around you. And I call it also the castle and curtain method because you're also going to want to put a curtain there. And I teach that in my books and videos about the Super Bowl and how if you were to throw a Super Bowl off of a big castle wall, it would bounce wildly everywhere. But if you have a curtain around that, when you throw a Super Bowl against a curtain, it just drops. So why have a big gray boring wall? It's sort of a blend of, walling something out, and gray rocking method, which is to be business like, bland and boring. It's a combination of those with the curtain. So it's blending 3 different strategies into one, so that you have gates where information can pass through, just like a castle fortress. And that would be like using the co-parenting app. There's gates. You don't let people know all your personal details that might be trying to use that against you. So gray walling is a protective barrier that you put around your mind, body, spirit, soul, psyche, personal information, so that you're protected. It's a self-preservation and protection idea. So, just a full disclaimer, I'm not a therapist. I'm a mom survivor. This is not advice. And depending on the phase that you're in, some of this may not work, might not be helpful. Use your lawyer's advice. Take this as just shared survivor wisdom. What worked for me may not work for you. And I always like to have you pause and read this because you can't just take one tip and run with it. Some of my videos talk about safeguarding against parental alienation claims, false PA claims that the narcissists tend to use in family court and win sole custody. And some moms see, I got to keep them informed. And they'll send 8 messages a day after years of not sending any messages regarding the child to their former ex-abuser, the narcissist. And you can see where that is like a big pendulum swing. It has to be strategic. Every action you do has to be run by your lawyer as part of an overall strategy. Please don't just take one tip and run with it. Read my books in the order written 1 through 5 to see the progression of how I did have to get a backbone and get support and get legal guidance and a lawyer and stand up for myself before I could implement skillful means and start creating peace and getting the negotiating with a narcissist, because I had created such strong leverage. So learn about that in all of my books and blogs. And we're going to get into this, but if you are willing to learn, ready to learn, willing to learn, and do the work, I'm here to teach, coach, and mentor, but you have to be open-minded to what I'm about to say, because I'm talking about peace and protection for children, and some people are talking about how to beat and destroy and defeat a narcissist, which if you've ever won against a narcissist, you know that then they retaliate. They're not happy campers. They don't play nice afterwards. They sometimes amp it up or make it worse than ever. So you get this brilliant court order that puts him in his place, and then he refuses to follow it, which puts the responsibility on you to hold him accountable, which then creates this enemy target of blame situation where you're against him, and you never want to be put against the narcissist that way. There's ways to shift and turn that whole dynamic that is so unhelpful for families. Hopefully there's family court reform, but learn all you can from my work, because knowledge is power. There's my website. My past is loving and leaving an alcoholic. And then I co-parented with a narcissist, fought in family court, went on to create peace and protection for my child, went from losing sole custody to winning it back in negotiations and winning contempts against the narcissist in court. So I've been through it, and I've been coaching moms, and I see lots of different scenarios. But some typical patterns, even if they're eerily similar, you can't just take one tip and run with it. So there's another caution. I'm mostly a strategist, so I don't have any DV crisis counseling work, but I strategize. And what is a strategist? Well, it's a knowledgeable, skilled person who has creative ideas, is resourceful to identify and develop and help implement a plan or strategy or strategies. And why get a strategy? Well, to achieve a specific measurable goal. Like if it's just all hate and all mother blaming and all kinds of narcissist tactics, you want to move to goodwill and civility, that is a measurable goal. That's what we have today. And it was 8 messages a day aimed at me, accusing me of something new. But I put an end to that through systematic, strategic documentation. So you'll have to learn about that in some of my guides and books. So generally, strategizing involves a non-emotional, higher perspective, so we can analyze the full situation dynamic. If you're in the tug of war with the narcissist, how are you the target of blame? Are you pitting yourself against the narcissist? Is your lawyer doing that? So a strategist will help you identify the problems and opportunities where you can make calculated decisions and navigate complex scenarios, thinking both long-term and short-term. So a short-term win against a narcissist can give you long-term problems, and vice versa. I've seen all different scenarios, but getting support from a strategist or a support team or a DV counselor or a therapist or a lawyer gives you power and allies. So I always recommend getting a lawyer. And the narcissist has the tricks, the tactics, the traps, and manipulation. So the tactic of a narcissist, if you need to know where your kid is going for vacation or when the next appointment is, they will stonewall you, which is giving you a silent treatment and not giving you information that you need as punishment, as a way to make more of a mess. Because narcissists they thrive in chaos, drama, and trauma that they kick up and create. So we have to have strategies, skills, self rules, because we need to endure it. And we do have the ability to change, unlike usually the narcissist. And we have to survive and adapt and be flexible and navigate around the narcissist. So just know that a tactic would be stonewalling, silent treatment, meant to punish and manipulate and destabilize a target of blame. But a gray walling method, its motivation and goal is to protect and preserve and defend. So two different motives, and that's the difference, basic difference. So if you can learn, heal, and grow, I say you can outgrow the narcissist. So if you can learn the lesson, you don't have to repeat the lesson. Here are my books 1-4. First one is Co-Parenting with a Narcissist, 7 Self-Rules to Stay Sane on Amazon. Second is How to Fight a Narcissist in Family Court and Win, and watch out for that win word. Co-Parenting with a Sociopath, Survival Insanity Guide. My fourth is How to Survive a Custody Battle When the Family Courts Force You to Co-Parent, and now I say require you to co-parent. And then my newest is Tame the Narcissist, 10 Keys for Better Co-Parenting, Create Peace and Protection Using Strategy and Skillful Means. So we do have to get skilled at this. If you find yourself failing to talk to a toxic person, you're not alone. They're very tricky. That's why we have that saying, walking on eggshells. And I read a book once that said, if you ever say you're walking on eggshells around someone, you know that person probably has a personality disorder. They're highly sensitive, very triggered. So we don't want to poke, prod, and push a narcissist. If you do that, you find out what happens. That's why there's a picture of the lion here. But it's available on Amazon, and it does have the full gray walling method. All of my blogs, all of my videos are composed and compiled in all 5 of my books. Where's my blog? Right here on my website. And you have a drop-down area to pick if you're talking about breaking free of codependency, which is our responsibility for healing, breaking trauma bonds, recovering from codependency, and or trying to co-parent with narcissists and have peace. These are some of my blogs that have become paid guides. They're all in all of my books. And there the gray walling is in that blog. So you can read this. Right now it's free. Don't know if it'll always be a free version. So if you want to learn more about how to establish a boundary, many of us have what they call poor boundary function. We don't keep boundaries. I had to get help. I had to read several books on boundaries. I had to put up strong boundaries at first with the narcissist. And then once I had stood up fully and I had leverage and proper representation and created peace, I didn't have to have such a strong wall. There could be some trade back and forth. So this is when you're co-parenting, quote unquote, parallel parenting, or in a high conflict, costly family court custody battle. Gray walling could be very helpful for you to learn versus stonewalling. So with stonewalling, again, you're giving a silent treatment meant to manipulate and punish. That's how I see this definition, because I believe I came up with the gray walling method myself as a blend to survive. So I designed it. It worked for me. It may not work for you. I put a big castle around me, had the gates in place, walls of protection, guards at the gate, and then I put that curtain around. So my castle didn't look shiny and something. I didn't put myself as a target. I didn't brag about my accomplishments. I didn't rub things in his face if I had a new partner. It was just a boring gray wall all the way around where nobody could get information for what was like. I think he asked our child, where does mom work? And she just kept saying, well, I don't know. And he said, well, aren't you curious? Don't you know where she works? And so it was just part of the castle method. And And so like it became really helpful to think in terms of castle. And the thing about it is, I think castles were probably built for people like this. So it's a self-preservation, self-protection, because sometimes a narcissist will accuse you of things and then you'll go into a long, detailed explanation, giving him tons of info and ammo to use against you later. And if you know anything about narcissists, you tell them something, they will use it against you later. They're very intent listeners for dirt and data that they would like to throw and use at a opportune time that gets them off the hook with their blame shifting and finger pointing and mother blaming. So stonewalling, the silent treatment, versus gray walling is different. So for example, you can get stonewalled by the narcissist because you ask him something about the child, something medical, something school. He won't respond. He's giving you the punishing silent treatment. Versus gray walling, you're giving a one sentence answer, but not too much detail, just enough that the judge would like to see your answer. Your answer, is not emotional, not finger pointing, just the facts that is needed to be said at the time. Gray walling is it's not too friendly and it's not too adversarial. It's somewhere neutral in the middle, because we do have to get from adversary to neutral if we want to apply skillful means and create peace when you're forced and required to co-parent with the narcissist. So just know there is a difference in that, and you can read more about that with my blog if it's still available for free, in my guide, or in my Tame the Narcissist book. I do have a free newsletter for moms if you want to get my free tips, tools, and strategies. There's also a podcast with this. It's via the Substack free newsletter sign up. So you can find that. You can go check my YouTube channel, find the strategies for dealing with a narcissist, because you'll need multiple strategies simultaneously and you'll have to be systematically applying things in your case. And if you rely on the strategies, it's sort of like your battle plan to not battle. So think about, okay, he does something very upsetting. He breaks the court order. You go to your documentation page and you number it and you write it down, date, time, details, evidence. And then you discuss it with your mentor, therapist, DV counselor. You document it and then you detach. And that's my 3D approach. And you can learn that in my books. So don't allow the narcissist to terrorize you with all of their, what I call co-parenting abuse. That's in one of my books. I think the 4th book, The Tactics of Co-parenting Abuse, which is really post-separation abuse. You can document no response. Like you can say, I have 20 no responses regarding medical to the lawyer you have. And that can be serious. That can rise to the occasion where the lawyer needs to file a motion or file a couple contempts with a request to the judge. So a narcissist will generally terrorize us using our fears, and the fear of certainty and not knowing if our kids are safe can really terrorize us if we're being stonewalled when our children are on their dad's time, which is why most judges order parent-child phone calls at a set time on both parties, both sides, the mother and the father, with the other parent. If you're in family court with a narcissist, I say get a lawyer, get the right lawyer, use my 20-question attorney interview worksheet, get your burning legal questions answered by a lawyer, a family law lawyer who knows your judge. So not just any lawyer across the country in a different state who's only talked to you once. It really ought to be a lawyer who knows your full story, that you've scouted and talked to 3 or 4 before choosing, and can really advise you knowing all the details of your case, because there's so many, everything depends. It depends on what strategy you're going to use. You'll have to change strategy, switch strategy, adopt a different strategy halfway through, and then go back to the original strategy. So that is something you have to do with a lawyer. And often our child custody case is often only as good as our lawyer. I do have the Navigate Around the Narcissist co-parenting video course that goes through 11 videos where you sit down and do the work of identifying your weaknesses and your strengths, And a lot of times the weakness is not strong enough representation, or only a lawyer, no therapist, no DV counselor, no coach, no strategy partner. And so without that, we can burn out our lawyers, use our lawyers as therapists, costs a lot of money, turn lawyers off from taking our case. There's a lot of reasons to get a lot of support. And I talk about that in those 11 videos. If you do 2 a week, you maybe could transform your high conflict custody battle case into something different. 2 a week gives you 6 weeks, like a month and a half to look and take a higher perspective on your case instead of be down in it in the mud. They say wrestle with pigs. You both get dirty and the pig loves it. So once you get that castle, why do we want gray walling? Why do we want that? Well, once you have protections in place, you're not being bombarded with abuse or co-parenting abuse or post-separation abuse, the walls are in place, communication is blocked or only through certain gates, then you can start strategizing. What do you want? What do you need? What does the child need? And make this list of things you could ask the judge for that you can lead your lawyer with. And your lawyer can help you make this list. Your lawyer can add to this list. Your lawyer could subtract it from this list if he knows a judge won't order it or certain requirements need to be met. So this is a power tool, and that's available. You can get that through my website or the new book, Tame the Narcissist. This also is just added how to turn this list into leverage, how to frame everything so you're not battling the narcissist directly. So narcissists don't like to follow rules, and there's rules in this country. Judges, they set the rules. Laws have to be followed and obeyed, and so we can position ourselves as just a person, a co-parent having to follow the rules too, versus the person going to enforce the rules on a narcissist. That's putting ourselves as the enemy to destroy, and we want to be mindful of that, which is using skillful means. And that's what I teach today. I am going to start a new nonprofit in the new year, so you can look for a link for that somewhere on my website soon. It's for concerned mothers in a custody battle because children are getting abused. This is for abuse and neglect prevention. So Child Abuse and Neglect Prevention and Protection Foundation. And I say, because an ounce of prevention is better than a pound of pain. And we're putting child safety first in my nonprofit, even if the courts don't yet. We'll probably have some people who work in a volunteer capacity to try to better the family court. Because when I negotiated with the narcissist for the last round, on I think the 10 or 12 year mark, that was better than going to family court and just having a judge take a peek into our case and put things in that don't help either of us or our child. So learning to negotiate with a narcissist is a very high level skill. You have to be through several phases and rounds. I had to be very supported, find my coaches, find my mentors, and do a whole education on narcissists and what makes them tick and what matters to them. And so this took a strategy person, and I had to find multiple strategy partners while working a program of recovery and healing from narcissistic abuse to even be healed enough to put in strategies. So thank you for watching. Look at the rest of my videos that are free on my YouTube channel. Remember to like and subscribe. We want to get those, we want to go from stressed out by the narcissist to very strategic. And the first step is to get solid, sturdy, safe boundaries in place. You can read that gray walling method or strategy. We want to get stable and have support on the inside, and then start strategizing for dealing with the narcissist on the outside of those castle walls. So your support team is designed to help you solidify those strategies while emotionally supporting you. So thank you so much for watching. I hope this was helpful to understand the distinction of stonewalling versus gray walling. Your motivation and intention does matter. Narcissists use silent treatment all the time. I'm sure you've probably used silent treatment against the narcissist to punish, to scold, to retaliate. Just forgive yourself. We all make mistakes. We're human. And remember that golden rule. it does apply here with a narcissist, and moms who work with me learn all of those strategies. They don't necessarily like them. It's hard to adopt them. Um, and I had to make these as I went along because I wanted peace and protection for me and my child. So we could stop just surviving the legal abuse in the family court war and move on to thriving and having a life. Left the narcissist. I didn't want to keep dealing with the narcissist. And yes, it's sad that I was done being narcissistically abused and then she had to deal with some of it. But if I did things that made it worse, it came down on her on unsupervised parenting time. So I had to calculate that into my strategies to keep our child out of the middle of the battle zone. And I did not want her to be a casualty. What is it called? One of those indirect victims of this. So once I realized what was needed, I had to be the more mature, responsible person who learned skillful means and dealt with injustice gracefully to survive. And the good news is our children are getting older, not younger. They're going from vulnerable to adult, and we have to get them through those younger years. And we have hope. Once they're adults, they can make a lot of their own decisions. They can't be so brainwashed. So look for those strategies. Sign up for my free newsletter. Read my gray walling method. Don't confuse it with stonewalling, and don't think that if a narcissist reads this, they're going to use this against you. Okay? Because if they're stonewalling you, that's not the same as gray walling. Whatever their intention is, doesn't have to be our intention. I don't necessarily agree with fighting fire with fire. Sometimes peace is only found on the other side of war. I understand that. It depends. It all depends on where you are in the battle. If you're not in a battle, if you have a chance of negotiating, who's on your side, who are your allies. So much depends, which is why you really need a lawyer who knows all the background of your case. You can't just take one tip, apply it, and get instant results. There's no guarantees with any of the teachings that I offer here. This is my survivor wisdom. Hope sharing my story helps you in having some hope and thinking outside of the battle that you're in. And thank you so much for watching. Remember to learn, heal, and outgrow the narcissist.